As Jay said, the blame game already underway over who would be at fault for a potential government shutdown. Vice President J.D. Vance is blaming Democrats for the impasse, zeroing in on their demand to extend Obamacare subsidies as part of a bill to keep the government funded. Here's some of what the vice president said yesterday on Fox News.
I think it's preposterous, Martha, and I think the American people really should pay attention to the fact that Democrats are threatening to shut down the entire government because they want to give hundreds of billions of dollars of health care benefits to illegal aliens.
Democratic Congresswoman from Washington, Pramila Jayapal, joins us now in studio. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being here. The vice president insisting there that Democrats would be to blame for this shutdown. Why is he wrong?
Well, he's wrong because they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. When you control all three chambers of Congress and the White House, you have to be able to govern. And that means they need 7 Democratic votes in the Senate. And they have proceeded over the last year since Trump came in, or the last 9 months since Trump came in, to break promises. They negotiated an agreement with us back in March and then immediately went back on their word and rescinded money that they had committed to just 3 months before. They have been destroying government agencies. They've already fired 150,000 federal employees. And I think the most important thing right now is that they just cut health care for 15 million Americans with their big bad betrayal bill. It's about to go even further with the upcoming crises in health care. I think we have to stand up and use our leverage and fight for health care for working people. Cancel the cuts, make sure that we lower costs for the American people, and at the end of the day, that we respect promises that are made, because they used to say that, you know, your word was the only thing you had on Capitol Hill. These people lie. They make promises, they break them. They did that to the American people. They've been doing it in Congress, and we're not going to take it anymore.
But when we talk about this fight in similar situations in the past, last September under President Biden, you urged the speaker to, quote, put forward a clean continuing resolution to keep our government open.
Yeah.
That is not what you're pushing for now.
No, because when we make a promise, we keep the promise. We don't rescind in partisan ways for money that has already been promised and authorized. The whole point of going through a congressional budget authorization is that both sides have to come together. Unless Republicans had over 60 votes in the Senate, then they could do whatever they want. But they don't. They are the governing force. That means they need Democratic votes. We have never done what they are doing. We haven't gotten rid of federal agencies unconstitutionally. We haven't rescinded on a partisan basis. That's actually never happened in the history of Congress, that one party would rescind money that was already authorized. So they have been continually breaking promises. We're in an unprecedented moment, Elizabeth, and I think that what is happening to the American people and to health care for Americans across this country and to costs. I mean, I've been reading about and hearing from my own constituents about how people can't afford groceries. They can't afford their electricity bills. They can't afford health care. And this is an administration that when Donald Trump came in, he said he was going to lower costs on day one. Here we are 9 months in, 10 months in, and not only have costs been going up, but they have been continually cutting all of the supports that American people need to survive.
But wouldn't those problems be made worse? People unable to pay bills, people struggling with affordability issues, if workers are furloughed, and if, as the White House has threatened, there are now mass firings under this type of situation, even worse for people in their day-to-day.
It's a terrible situation that they will create, that Republicans will create.
But you would be also voting to let this happen.
Because you know what? They have already furloughed and fired, not just furloughed, but fired 150,000 federal workers. So they're going to continue to destroy agencies. And I think what we need to do is stand up and say, enough. Enough of this behavior. We need to be working in a bipartisan way. I mean, look, it's telling that Speaker Johnson sent everybody home. This is not a negotiation when you send home all of the members. We are all here. Democrats are here. We have all been here. We are ready to come to a negotiated agreement. But you don't have the votes. So if you want to govern, you have to do it by working with the other party to get a negotiated agreement.
While you're here, Congresswoman, I want to ask you, the White House released a statement blaming Democrats for some of the rhetoric that elected officials have had, including you. They blame Democrats for criticism of ICE for last week's shooting at that ICE facility in Texas, and they named you specifically for some of the comments you have made about ICE in the past. What's your response?
Well, look, my response is I just had a state representative, a Republican Arizona state representative, call for me to be hanged. He called for my execution. If the White House was actually going to go after people who are inciting political violence, they should go after people like that. But the reality is that we have an authoritarian government right now that is doing things that are unconstitutional. My work is to make sure that we continue to promote nonviolent resistance, active opposition to the things that are happening. I don't think that Republicans, Democrats, and independents, for the majority part, supermajority across the country, like that ICE is coming in, masked men on our streets, Elizabeth, kidnapping people who are hardworking folks who have just been doing their jobs, people who are here on legal visas, U.S. citizens. They have kidnapped and detained people. They are pushing people to the ground. We have a militarized force on our streets. That's what ICE has turned into, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to push back against that. And
do you regret your rhetoric?
I have no rhetoric that I regret. Nothing that I have said is rhetoric that incites violence. All of it is about what is actually happening. There is nothing that I have said that they can point to that shows that in any way it's a problem. But what is a problem is that the FBI has taken about 20% of their staff and put them on immigration instead of going after drug cartels, instead of going after violent criminals. What this administration is trying to do is to target and, divide the American public around immigrants. But what they've forgotten is that we actually are a nation of immigrants. And the vast majority of Americans don't want, yes, they want to go after the worst of the worst. That's what Donald Trump said he was going to do. What they don't want to do is go after the people that are doing work in their communities, that are contributing to the economy every single day, and target those people simply because of what language they speak or what they look like. I think it's a very scary time in this country, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to hold this administration accountable for what they're doing.
Congresswoman, thanks so much for your time and for joining us in the studio today. Yeah.